Hi sailors, I want to share a big milestone moment with you guys. As you may know, I've been working on all the forces that work on your boat, like the force on the sail, gravity, the drag of the hull, everything. I'll explain more about that later. And I did this in a side project to make things easier for me. And now that it sort of works, I implemented everything into the Sailaway III project. And I did a little experiment just now, which failed because I mixed two variables. And I corrected that now. And before I start Sailaway, I'll explain a little bit about all these forces, and then we'll start Sailaway together. And hopefully, if I did everything correct, the boat will sail its first meters in the Sailaway III ocean. Yay! So let's talk about those forces first. The first force is gravity. We can't escape it, it's everywhere. It will work on the hull, it will work on the rig itself, and on the sailors if you move around your boat. And what will happen is that the lateral point of this force moves. When the boat heels over, the lateral point will go sideways or the other way if you have a big counterweight in your keel. If you walk forward on your boat, go sit on the foredeck, the lateral point will move a little bit forward. Luckily, there is something called buoyancy because it floats on the water. The boat floats on the water, and just like gravity, also this buoyancy will have a lateral point. If a boat is shaped like a wig, this lateral point will be more backward than if the boat is shaped like a barge. When they tip over, the lateral point of this buoyancy will move towards this side, and when it moves that way, the lateral point will go here. And that's a natural way of compensating for the heel of the boat. So the third force is lift force on the hull and foils, because if you have a hydrofoil boat, it will go up because the hydrofoils produce lift force. But also the hull itself will produce a lift force. If you have a hull with a kind of flat bottom, then it will produce a lift force when it moves through the water. The water will push it up, and that helps with planing, for instance. So the next force is the sail. Yay! Because the sail pushes the boat forward. This sail force also has a lateral point in your sails. If you have two sails, for instance, and you pull the sheet of your jib, the sail force or the lateral point will move forward, and if you ease the jib, the lateral point will go more backwards. And this is important because it affects the steering of your boat. If you have weather helm, the boat will tend to towards the wind. The next force is wind drag. If you have this big catamaran with a big cockpit on it, you can imagine that it will catch a lot of wind when the boat sails upwind, which is one of the main reasons why a boat like that will not sail very steep upwind. Then the next is water displacement, and this displacement works forward, the boat sails forward, but also sideways to compensate the drift. Then there's also water friction. You might say that's the same thing as water drag, but in my opinion it's something else, because it's very low for a very small force when your boat is smooth, but it quickly becomes a very big force when there's a lot of growth underneath your boat, muscles and all kinds of things, and this will dramatically slow down the boat. And this growth is a factor that is also available in Sailaway III. Then there's the water drag for the foils and the rudder, because if you keep on steering all the time, your boat will go less fast than your opponent who keeps his rudder steady and has balanced his sails and everything. And the last one is a planing barrier. If you have a very heavy boat, wide heavy boat, it will have to lift itself over its bow wave in order to go faster than its hull speed. And when the boat is really heavy, it won't be able to do that. So it will always stick to that maximum speed of its hull. Unless your boat is a bit lighter, if your boat has a flat bottom, for instance, or it's a very narrow boat, and these factors influence the size of this planing barrier. And so with all these forces, eventually the behavior of the boat is computed. How much it heels over, how much drift it has, if it tips over forward, backwards, what the speed will be when it starts planing, when it will rise up from the water due to the foils. And I don't think anyone has ever done this in a simulation, except maybe for boat design software, but not in a simulation, and definitely not like this. So I hope you like it. There is a downside, however, and the downside is that I can't do this when you're sailing offline, because there's no boat. And if I would do this when sailing offline, I would need a server park like Facebook or Google has, and I can't afford that. So what I will do is compute a polar diagram for the boat itself. Each boat will have its own polar diagram, but it's not really computed beforehand. It is computed while you are sailing, you guys. And when you sail, it just continuously records the efficiency of your sail and how well you're doing. And if you're doing well enough, it will record this speed in a big table, and from that it will compute a polar diagram for the boat. But it will also compute a polar diagram for your boat. So when you're sailing offline, you will sail with the speed of your boat, the way you recorded it. And that makes for a difference between when you're racing. Not all competitors will sail equally fast when they're offline. And I think that's pretty cool, because until now all boats would be identical when they sail offline, and not much will happen if they all sail the same course and roughly in the same area, and all have their sails pretty well trimmed. And that's going to change now, so you will have to train your boat to sail as fast as you can. Well, that's the plan. I haven't implemented this yet. If you have very good ideas, let me know. I'm all ears. But otherwise, this is how it will happen. And now let's start Sailaway and see if it works. So let's start Sailaway and see if something happens. I'm just as curious as you are. So here's my boat. The sail is flapping. Let's pull the main sheet a little bit. There we go. And look at that. It's going forward, isn't it? Well, that's it. And I will, I don't know, you'll see me back. Bye everyone.